Welcome back to Idiots One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
And Bailey, before we start today, I just want to say that intro music makes this so much better.
So we haven't actually added it in yet, so I don't know what it sounds like, but I'm sure it's going to sound great.
What are you talking about?
I'm saying that I haven't heard the intro music added to the podcast yet, so I don't know how great it's going to sound, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome. The fans who are listening now already know, so they can tell us. But at this point, I haven't listened to them together yet, so I don't know.
You're breaking the curtain of illusion, okay? Because by the time that they hear this, it will be in it and we will have heard it, okay? It's called show business.
I mean, that's fair.
Well, congratulations. The curtain's come down, Bailey. Why don't we just, give away all of our secrets, our movie and editing magic? You know what? Don't even edit the podcast. It's fine.
Yeah, then they definitely won't hear it, and my statement will be correct.
Yeah, which will be a damn shame because I really enjoy our intro, outro, and transitional music that apparently will be put in here. You just haven't heard it yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or they will have heard the intro by the time they've gotten here. We just haven't heard it as part of the podcast yet, but they will have.
You're not wrong. Anyway, back on track. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the person who made our intro and outro music. All right, so we went on Fiverr. And after scouring through thousands and thousands of people, we came across Ella Rowan, who was very kind and considerate and gave us exactly what we were looking for. So if you need intro and outro music for literally anything, you can find her on Fiverr, Ella Rowan. But yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend. She was very quick with everything and gave us exactly what we were looking for. And hopefully you enjoy the music as much as we do.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it outside of the podcast, and it sounds pretty good.
I felt like it fit the entire vibe of the podcast.
Certainly.
And the best part is that when we pitched the idea to her, I really didn't know how to pitch it, but it still came out good because we were on like the same wavelength or something, I guess. It's really nice when you have somebody that can read your mind because you're not sure what to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a beneficial thing.
But with that being said, you want to talk about today's movie?
Yeah, today's movie, X, directed by Ty West.
Is it Ty?
I mean,
Or is it Ty?
those are the same words.
No. Is it Ty or is it Ty?
I'm hearing the same words.
Yeah, because according to the English language, you can do that. Because what I was really saying was like Thai food, okay? And then the second time I said it, I was like a bow tie that you wear, but it meant the same thing.
That's fair.
Yeah, there's your English lesson for the day.
I mean, if you had spelled it out, I would have caught the joke instead of not catching it.
So, Bailey, what film are we talking about today?
X, directed by Ty West.
The 2022 classic?
I mean, I don't know if you can call it a classic yet, but sure.
I want to call it a classic because of the star-studded cast that it has. Okay, we have Jenna Ortega, who you might know from Scream 5. It's also got Kid Cudi, who you probably know as Kid Cudi, who also did the theme music, who did Day and Night, which is I think is one of his most popular songs, which you might have heard in the Moon Knight trailer, which also starred...
I'm not going to do it.
Oh, come on, it was a callback.
I'm not going to.
It was a callback to the last episode.
I know what it is. I'm not going to do it.
Okay, fine. You fucked up the callback. Anyway, that was a callback, in case you didn't notice that.
Who's it a callback to?
Oscar Isaac, who was in Ex Machina 2014, which was the last episode that we released, who also plays Moon Knight.
The last episode we released was Barbarian.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? My timeline's all fucked up. That was a callback
Yeah.
to a later episode. But anyway.
Previous episode.
Yeah, previous episode. You didn't think that we would do that, did you? But we did. But it also has Brittany Stoughton from Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
She was the head bitch in Pitch Perfect that nobody really liked. But in this movie, I like her.
Yeah, she plays Bobby Lynn.
Bobby Lynn. And I mean, those are really noticeable people that you know. Everybody else I didn't really.
Did you even talk about Mia Goth?
I mean, I was going to give a whole section dedicated to her just because I feel like she's a very rising talent. Okay.
I mean, that's fair.
So yeah, I was going to give like a whole segment to her and then not talk about it. But yeah, we'll talk about Mia Goth. And since we're on the subject of Mia Goth, I believe that she is one of the actresses you need to be looking out for because with this movie and then the sequel or prequel to the movie Pearl, which just released, which we will be doing obviously. I would say Mia Goth, pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. She's, this was good. She's been in a couple other things that were pretty good recently.
So I give her the same treatment as what's her name? Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria, where she did a bunch of other, like, two things before Euphoria that were good and nobody knew who she was, and then she blew up with Euphoria. Same thing with Mia Goth.
Well, so specifically with Mia Goth, have you seen a Cure for Wellness?
Yes.
That's the other movie that she's in.
Before this, I would not have ever registered that.
That's fair.
That's the thing. But yeah, I think that she's a rising talent, and you need to keep your eye out on her, especially with the trilogy that'll happen. This is the X is the middle one that was released first. And then you have the prequel Pearl, and it's also been announced that Maxine with 3 X's in it is going to be the sequel, and that will release at some point.
I think 2023.
2023, is that it? That would make sense.
I believe so, is what I saw online.
So yeah, we're pretty excited for that one. But the one that we're talking about today is X.
Yes, and if you haven't seen Pearl yet, you don't have to worry. We aren't going to be doing any spoilers for it, so we're going to be doing this as a standalone movie.
Yeah, don't worry. Nothing. The only thing that we will mention about Pearl is that it's the, prequel to this one. That's it.
Yeah.
In the trilogy. Today we're focusing on the X Factor, Mia Goth.
Yeah, I mean, in the words of Martin Henderson, or otherwise known as, his character is Wayne.
Wayne.
Yeah.
We were gonna. Good old Wayne.
She has the X Factor.
Has he been in anything like notable that you wrote down? Because I couldn't find anything. Because he's old and has been around for a while, but I haven't. But looking through his collection on IMDb, I was like, I don't think I've seen any of these.
Yeah, no, he wasn't in anything that I was just like, ooh, yeah, this is super solid. Let's do this one.
Yeah, but I remember him now.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what did you score this, Bailey?
I would say that this is probably a 3, maybe a 3.5. It's got a lot of good stuff in it, a lot of cool scenes. It's got a couple cool kills. It's got a lot of things that I enjoy. However, it falls flat in some areas for me, and because of that, I can't justify a higher score. But I'd say like a 3.5.
So I've watched this 3 times now.
Okay.
Ironically enough, here's a little Easter egg for you guys. This movie, when it first came out, we were very heavily considering doing it for the podcast. Don't remember why. This was supposed to be our first new release movie that we did. I don't remember why we didn't do it.
I think we said there was too much to talk about, and we wanted to see it again before we did a podcast over it, so that we gave it the justice and consideration it deserved.
Which I'm glad that we had that discussion and did, because I do feel like there is a lot to talk about, but there's also a lot that you don't want to talk about in this movie.
So I'm glad that we waited as well, because I'm pretty sure after my first viewing I would have given it like a 4, and my second viewing has, in my mind, put it closer to where it should be.
So my 3 viewings, I've kind of taken the average, because they all 3 were scored differently. The first time I watched it, the score was low. Second time I watched it, the score was high. And the third time I watched it, because I rented it off of Amazon.
Me too.
So obviously, if I'm paying, what was it, like $5.99 or something?
I think it's $4.99 for me.
Yeah, if I'm paying $4, $5, I'm gonna get my money's worth. So I watched it an additional time, and I would say that the appropriate score for this movie is a 3.5 out of 5. You can maybe justify giving it a 4, but I really truly think that a 3.5 out of 5 is where this movie is. Now, RogerEbert.com would disagree with both of us. They gave it on theirs a 3 out of 4, or on our scale a 4 out of 5. Which, one thing that RogerEbert.com did say that I agreed with was, like you said, it kind of falls flat in a few places, and it does. I feel, we'll get into that in the discussion, but to justify my score and watching it 3 times, it is a very fun movie, and it tries to go a little too deep and then falls flat. But if you're a horror fan or a movie fan, or both, very fun time.
So speaking of being a fan of horror and movies, I think that this movie is good for various people who are fans of the horror genre, because I think that if you're someone who likes slashers, it will satisfy your need for slashers. And I think that if you're someone who likes more like psychological, pretentious, whatever the word we want to use is, you would also like this because it is an A24 film and it does have elements beyond typical slasher. I would say that if you're a fan of anything in the horror genre, between those two, you would probably enjoy it. Maybe not so much if you're into like ghosts and ghouls and stuff like that, but slashers, psychological, human monsters, I think that this is the movie for you.
As long as you're not into elevated horror and you're one of those people that exclusively only watches elevated horror and thinks that every other form of horror is bad, then yeah, you wouldn't like this. But you're a pretentious asshole, so fuck you.
I don't know. I think that this has quote unquote elevated horror element.
I think it tries to make fun of it and falls flat. But anyway, let's get into the spoiler-free review if you haven't seen the movie. Give you a nice little rundown of it. So I'll quote the trailer whenever this was being advertised. This is Texas Chainsaw Massacre makes a porno, which I'm pretty sure has already been done. Rule 34. Which you can make that joke of, I think I downloaded the wrong Texas Chainsaw movie. Ho, 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 that everybody's doing, but I'm not going to make that joke. But yeah, it's literally the Texas Chainsaw Massacre made a porno, and it is a very fun time. If you do not like overly sexual movies, this is not the movie for you. If you don't like a lot of blood, this movie is not for you. But if you like both of those things, this movie might be a 10 out of 10 for you. But it's also a very fun time. I think that anybody watching this that likes Easter eggs and ode to older horror movies is going to have a very fun time with this. And I think that overall people should watch it. And if you were on the fence about it because you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch a movie about them making a porno, it's only about half.
The thing about the porno element is there are a lot of tits and stuff, and there's a little bit of dick shown, but you don't see any anything else. You don't actually see insertion or penetration.
Yeah, it is an X-rated film, not a triple X-rated film.
There's nudity in it. There's, sex positions, but you don't actually see penetration. So because of that, you probably wouldn't want your children to watch it, but teenagers and stuff, it'd probably be fine.
Yeah, I think if you can show a teenager this and be fine. Obviously R is 17 and up, but I think that you can show probably a 13, 14-year-old this, it'd be fine.
Yeah, I think a mature 13 or 14-year-old, because they know what sex is, and because of American society and their taboo-ness on sex, it might make you a little hesitant. But if your kid knows what sex is, I don't think that that's a reason not to show them this movie. Or your teenager. Obviously, I'm not saying children. Children shouldn't see this, but teenagers, young adults, for sure.
Yeah, as long as you think that they can handle it, you can show them this movie. They'll have a fun time with it, or they won't. But yeah. All in all, I would recommend it. And now, transition music. Now we'll get into the spoilers.
Nice.
That was nice. I like how we did that and lined up. We should do that in the future.
It was accidental.
It was accidental. Why do you keep everything? Oh man, just throw in the curtain, okay? Let's see. The little man behind the wizard. All right. Here's Oz. Oh.
So since we're going into spoilers, I'm going to start off with a bang.
Okay.
So I really like the opening scene, how it starts in a 16:9 almost camera aspect. And then as the police pull up, it kind of zooms to a full screen. When I was watching that, I was just like, ooh, that's nice.
So what I really like about it is it does that, but it also kind of disguises it like you're looking through the doors of a barn. And then when you're going out of the barn is when it starts to get bigger. So yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think that opening shot is fucking phenomenal.
And the thing I like about it is I feel like that opening shot plays into other shots they use throughout the movie. It sets you up, it puts you in the right headspace, in my opinion.
Yes, because there are some shots in this one, which we'll talk about my favorite shot in the whole movie. But there are certain shots that are stylistic choices, I would say, that you have to be in the right headspace for. Otherwise, you'd be like, I don't know.
And I think that is a good way to start it.
I think that is the perfect way to start it, and also showing the carnage up front of what happens, because something is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. If you've seen any slasher, they're going to die. Who's going to be the survivor? But it sets it up very, very well. And I think the opening shot is perfect, and it also gives us our first introduction to the TV evangelist.
Televangelist.
I can't talk today.
That's okay.
The televangelist that will be very prominent throughout the entire film, but not super prominent. You'll just see like bits and pieces of him. But I thought that was a really good one. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? Because there's one scene that I wanted to talk about specifically.
In regards to scenes, no, but I do want to talk about the transitions that are used. Specifically, in this movie, if you've seen it, which you're in the spoiler section, so I'm assuming you have, then you probably notice the transitions where it shows one scene and then it shows another scene and then it kind of flashes between them before you transition fully into the next scene. A good example of this is when Pearl pours Maxine lemonade while it shows Jackson and Bobby Lynn's character also like getting lemonade during this scene they're filming for The Farmer's Daughter. And it does the transition where it kind of flashes between both side by side, and it does that a couple other times throughout the film, and I thought that was really cool.
Yes, I liked the transitions, but what I wanted to talk about was a foreshadowing and the tie-in to another movie. Did you catch that?
I think so.
So when they're going, so like nothing is really, before they go to the farm because they leave from Houston, nothing really matters except for the fact that this is very much the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, paying homage to it. And much like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it foreshadows what is going to happen when, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen one of the greatest horror movies of all time. If not, you should.
Talk about Texas Chainsaw?
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw. So in the original Texas Chainsaw, they drive by a slaughterhouse and then comment on it, which foreshadows that they will be slaughtered, much like the animals that go in there. But in this movie, they roll up to a cow that has been hit by a semi-truck and is kind of splattered all over the road. And there is a lot of focus on one particular instance where they slowly start going over the remains, which foreshadows what is going to happen to Pearl at the end of the movie. Because it's the exact same thing. She runs over her head. But it's also foreshadowing that they're going to be slaughtered, much like the cow is as well.
That's fair. I caught that, but I didn't catch that as foreshadowing or as intended foreshadowing. I thought you were going to talk about when they stop at the gas station and they're talking to the lady in there about how people are weird about sex.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that's the foreshadowing you were talking about, because even during that scene, kind of like during the end scene, the televangelist is playing on the background and there's like clear judgment in the eyes of the cashier. And at the end, I'm not going to go into it, but I feel like that plays similar.
It does, I think.
Just the televangelist in the background, and you can hear him commenting on society and what's happening to the children and morality and sexuality and all of this and that. And I don't know, I just saw a very good comparison between those two scenes.
Which obviously, this movie sets it up for sex is bad. Sex is this terrible thing. That's what the televangelist is trying to preach. The world's gone corrupt. The people have moved on. We're now doing things that are unmoral. We've gotten away from the church. Need to preach it. Whereas you have this group of people who, one of the most interesting scenes, and I think the counterpoint to what he is preaching, is when they're all recording, and Lorraine goes, "How are you okay with her having sex with him in front of you?" And then he goes, "Well, it's business. As long as it's in front of the camera, it's okay." And then the most important thing I think that they say, what Maxine says, is you can choose who you fuck, but you don't choose who you love, I think was what it was.
I'm pretty sure that the quote is, you can choose who you love, but you can't choose who you fuck. Like, I know that doesn't make as much sense as you can choose who you fuck, but you can't choose who you love. But I'm pretty sure that that's what the quote is in the movie.
So what you're saying is I corrected the quote in my head.
I think so.
Okay.
Which it could just be me misunderstanding the quote or misinterpreting it, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to talk about the one that I said because it makes more sense.
But what if it's not the actual one in the movie?
We'll edit the movie and put it in there and then just, flip the words around. We'll figure it out. We can edit the movie and then sell the, correct version to people.
Well, I mean, what if it's said the way that it was meant to be said and we're just misunderstanding what it's supposed to mean?
No, because the way that it was supposed to be was that, because that makes the most sense.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. For argument's sake, it does not matter.
Okay.
But I think that's a very important quote because it shows the free spirit of the group.
That's fair.
And that free thinking that is directly oppositional to the standards at the time, and especially the beliefs of like the church and stuff. They are in direct defiance of that, saying that sex is not this thing that you make it out to be. It's okay, it's natural, and we can fuck as many people as we want, and that's fine. You don't need to be weird about it, I guess, and say that this is something that we don't need to do, because I will not accept a life that I do not deserve. So Maxine says like throughout the entire movie. I think that's her motto.
Yeah, she's quoted saying that like 3 times, and then she also, when she says it at the end, it matches up with the televangelist saying it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Anyway, what other scenes did you like, or thematic elements?
So thematically, like I feel like we've hit most of the stuff.
Because it really isn't there.
Yeah, that like the stuff that I would talk about, we've hit, about it being a conversation of like morality and sexuality.
So I do want to talk about my favorite shot in the entire movie.
Is it the pond one?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that we both feel that way. Because even when we watched it the first time, that was the one that we commented on. And this scene, probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, honestly. But Maxine has stripped out of her overalls and is skinny dipping in this lake, pond, or whatever it is. You can see how incredibly white she is in contrast to the darkness of the murkiness, I guess, of the water, like the dark murkiness of the water. And it is an aerial shot where she's just kind of floating there, and it looks beautiful and it's super serene. And then all of a sudden you see the alligator.
Yeah.
And the alligator isn't moving quickly. It is moving at a steady, consistent pace. And eventually what happens is that the peaceful tranquility of the scene is broken up by that, because she doesn't realize that there is an alligator following her, but she does start to head back at that time, which just syncs up perfectly, because now it looks like this aerial shot of a cat and mouse game where the suspense is just building, because you're like, oh my God, she's going to die. This is how it happens. And I think that it builds the suspense perfectly, kind of like the way that a Hitchcock movie does, which might have been a homage to a Hitchcock movie. But the suspense that is built up through that, even at the very end where she gets to the dock, and there's a good portion of her and the alligator that is still between them, but she's just resting on the dock, kind of taking it all in. And then right before the alligator gets to her, she pops out onto the dock. And I just love that scene. The aerial shot, I think, is probably my favorite, and is just very beautiful and serene. Even when it switches to the POV of her looking up at the blue sky with the bird flying around and everything. That scene was just 10 out of 10. Would recommend. If you don't watch this movie, just watch that one scene.
So I agree that scene was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. One thing about it that you kind of mentioned, but not in the way that I would have, is when she gets to the dock and she like pulls herself up and is resting, you can't really see the alligator anymore. Us as the audience know it's still there and know it's still coming, but there's like a 2 or 3 second period where she's resting there, like before she decides whether or not she's getting out, where you can't see the alligator, but you know it's getting closer. And I think that does suspense really, really well.
You can see its tail.
Can you?
There's a little part of it that you can see, but for the most part, it's completely...
Oh, so see, I thought it was completely covered, but I was also watching it on like a 24-inch like monitor rather than an actual television, so that's fair.
But yeah, and then when she goes out of the water, it's the POV of the alligator,
Yeah.
where you can see just how close she was from imminent doom.
Speaking of suspense, another really suspenseful scene was right before Wayne steps on the nail,
Yes.
because you see the board with the nail sticking up, which you know he's going to step on it, but it does suspense really well because it's just like 5 seconds before and you just can feel it, and then when he steps on it, you actually see it press into his skin. Like the effect that they did for that was really cool, because you can almost see it come up through the top of his foot, which it doesn't pierce it, but you can see where it would be, and I think that was just done really well.
The special effects for this one were done well. It felt like a special effects that they would use on a 1979 slasher film,
Yeah,
which I appreciated a lot.
absolutely.
So, speaking of Wayne, I think the funniest moment in that whole movie is after they've shot the first scene, him and RJ are talking. And RJ isn't really a character that we've discussed because I don't know, he's not really relevant. But anyway, when he's talking to Wayne, he goes, "Oh, their eyeballs are gonna pop out of their skulls," which was a nice little subtle foreshadowing for how he is going to die. But the funniest moment is when he says, "Feel how hard my cock is," and then just grabs RJ's hand and slaps it on there.
The direct quote is, "We're gonna be rich. Feel how hard my cock is."
Yes, great. Probably the funniest line in the whole movie.
It literally had me laughing out loud.
Yeah, every time I watch it, I'm like, this is the scene. This is it. I don't think I can watch this movie with other people because I'll be tapping them, be like, "Are you ready for this? You ready for him to grab his cock?"
The funniest thing about it is I've met people like that historically.
Yes.
Who, when they get really like amped up, they're like, "Oh, grab my cock," and I'm just like, "Bro, I don't want to do that."
Feel how hard my cock is right now. Oh, we're just throbbing.
Yeah.
Like, what? No.
Like there are people like that out there. Like that, it's funny to me because it's real.
Yes. No, that was good. So when you talked about Wayne's death when he steps on the nail.
I mean, I didn't talk about his death. I just talked about him stepping on the nail. I was going to talk about RJ's death first.
We probably should chronologically order them. But before we do that, I do want to talk about the song choice, which was "Landslide" by Stevie Nicks. That
I thought it was Fleetwood Mac.
Is it Fleetwood Mac that does that?
She was in, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, no, it's Stevie Nicks because we were talking about Coven before this with American Horror Story.
Yeah.
She was in that. Okay, I got him. Yeah. Fleetwood Mac. Anyway, Brittany Snowden does a very beautiful cover of this with Kid Cudi playing the guitar. Who knew he could play the guitar? I did not know. Because all that I thought was, it was day and night. And that, I'm not going to sing. Anyway, Lonely Stoner freezes mine tonight. Anyway, so he's over there, and I think the song choice was very good because that's about, decision making and freedom and stuff, and I think really fits the overall arching narrative.
Absolutely.
But the best part is when little Lorraine, who I'll refer to as Church Mouse, because I'm pretty confident they call her Church Mouse more than her actual name throughout the whole film.
They do.
She says, "I want to be in the movie," and everybody kind of stops and goes, "What?"
This is the scene that you were talking about earlier.
So this scene is very impactful for a number of reasons. Because number one, and even when she's about to shoot the scene with Jackson, there is a very heavy emphasis on her removing the cross from her neck, showing that she has given into sin in the eyes of the church and is kind of like, well, it doesn't matter anymore. But before that, she talks, and RJ says, who he's obviously very against it. This is his girlfriend, and everybody has seen the huge dong that Jackson has, which, don't worry, we will see later in the film.
I don't think the audience has seen it yet.
Oh, but they will.
I mean, that's fair.
I was referring to everybody that's
Yeah.
because they've all seen it. They even talk about it, and she's like, "Oh, I've seen you sneaking a peek at Jackson's wiener," and it's like, yeah, yeah, we see why later.
Yeah.
Good old Betty Lou. Anyway, what ends up happening though is she says, "I want to be in it," and he goes, "Well, you can't, 'cause it don't make sense." And the way that RJ is the independent filmmaker that just wants to make a movie, so he ends up making a porno. But throughout the entirety of the film, he says he's going to make it like, classy, and you can make a good dirty movie like the French.
Avant-garde.
Avant-garde.
Yeah.
So it's because if we shoot it avant-garde, then people won't be able to know that it's a low budget film. You can hide that. So he's really taking it seriously. Everybody else is like, oh, we're gonna fuck.
I would argue that they're taking it seriously too, because they're all under the impression that it's going to be a successful film that's going to make them money.
But not at the same level that he is, though, because he sees it as art. They see it as, because that's the difference between them. And then Lorraine even falls into this because he sees it as art. And this is what's going, like, they both see it as this is going to make me famous, but for different reasons. He sees it as art. They see it as quick cash, which could be a nod at capitalism, but that might be stretching it. And Lorraine represents that transitional period where she was in it for, you can make a good dirty movie. And then, ooh, if this is really going to be that successful, then I don't want to hold the sound equipment. I want to be in it.
Yeah.
Whether it's, like whatever it is. And he's very objective to it because obviously he doesn't want to record his girlfriend getting fucked on camera. But he is. And the argument that they use is you can't just change the movie halfway through. And she immediately throws, well, Psycho's your favorite movie, and that's what they do.
Yeah. And he explains that it was a MacGuffin and...
Yeah, it was a MacGuffin. It makes sense, for the movie. But, that doesn't make sense here. And then she goes, we're shooting a dirty movie. It doesn't have to.
So I think it's interesting that all of that was said and how they talk about how, like, the first half of Psycho is a different movie than the last half, because I would argue that happens in this movie, because the first half of the movie is them making a porno and them getting everything ready to make a porno, and the last third of the movie, maybe half, I think
almost half, it's a hour and 45 minutes long, and then this is exactly like an hour and 1 minute, I think, because I timed it. So
yeah, whatever.
The last half of the movie, it goes from a movie about people making a porno to slasher, which is Psycho.
Well, I mean, the first half of Psycho isn't a movie about them making a porno.
I mean, no, it's about a bank robbery and taking money and getting away with it and then dying in the shower.
I don't know if bank robbery is the right word.
I mean,
but we're not talking about
Psycho. Anyway, I knew you'd get pissed off if I said that. Because that's like one of your favorite movies of all time.
It's so good.
It's not. Anyway. But yeah, I thought that was really good. And that was the transition for slasher part of the movie. Because at this point, we have met Pearl and her husband, Howard, who have been very weird. They're kind of keep to themselves. There have been some strange interactions with Maxine and Pearl, which if you did not know, Mia Goth does both roles. And the reason she does both roles is because while doing the movie, like they were, I think, shooting it or writing it, Ty West had this idea to do a backstory about Pearl because there wasn't originally a backstory, and then him and Mia Goth got together, did a backstory, and as long as she would reprise the role, then it would be okay. So they shot this and Pearl at back to back.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure that this and Pearl were shot like at the same time or simultaneously or back to back, or
they were shot back to back like a Grindhouse double feature would in New Zealand, I believe.
That makes sense.
That was just cool. That plays a lot because it makes sense as to why their characters aren't very fleshed out. Because if you take just this movie without the knowledge of Pearl being a thing and then Maxine being a thing, it really semi-touches on Maxine and then really doesn't touch on Pearl, and seems like a wasted opportunity between her and Howard, because you make the parallel of Pearl and Maxine. The reason that Pearl likes Maxine is because she has the X Factor, which is what Pearl had when she was a kid, and she wants to basically is jealous of Maxine because she still has the X Factor, and it reminds her of when she had it. And then when she catches them fucking and imagines herself fucking, then you realize that this whole movie is about, a horny old couple who can't have sex because Howard's hard. Because she makes advances on him, and he goes, well, my heart can't take it. No. But yeah, Mia Goth doing both makes sense. And knowing that the way that they shot the interactions, you can tell that they spliced them together. Or you can tell that if, for instance, when she was touching her, that it was somebody else, because you would only see like the hand on Mia Goth, so you can make the assumption that somebody else just, puts on the skin, and starts
That's some
touching
Buffalo
her.
Bill shit.
I was thinking Ed Gein, but yeah, that works too.
Buffalo Bill is a movie character, and we're a movie podcast, and Ed Gein's a real life person. We aren't a real life podcast. Bro.
Why do you have to tear the veil down, like the curtain, every fucking time? If you want to know how we do this show, why don't you just come on? At this point, you can get a behind the scenes look. It's not really a behind the scenes because Bailey keeps opening his fucking mouth.
I don't understand how that's shattering the veil.
Because, okay, so, wrestling, K-Fed, I think is what it was called, where everything that happened in the ring and then the beefs and the rivalries were real, okay? But now how, there's like the K-Fed thing, and then the first instance of that ever being broken was, it was when Razor Ramon and Diesel went to WCW, Kevin Nash. Yeah, Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash went to WCW, and their last match was against Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and they all four like hugged in the ring, even though they were rivals at the time, and that broke the veil because they were raising their hands because they were really friends in real life. That's what you've done here. We had this illusion going with everybody where we were, a perfect podcast, and now you've broken it. Now you've given away all of our tricks. We are the magicians who cannot go to any shows anymore because you've literally shown everybody how to do our stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's okay. You've ruined it. It's fine. Back to the movie. I feel like it was a wasted opportunity for that, but yeah, having her play both was a very stylistic choice, and I really enjoyed it.
That's fair. No, I think that she did a really good job in both roles. I agree with your statement about how this is, the middle film, or the first film released, but the middle film and like the timeline of chronological events, even though we don't know what happened historically or after this. Dialogue choices for Pearl and Howard's characters indicate that something like this has happened before. And I think that that's really interesting because I haven't seen Pearl yet, so I don't know what it is, but those statements in themselves were a clear indication that there was going to be another movie in the event that you weren't aware.
Which later on we'll discuss another scene where it becomes abundantly clear that they've done this before. But let's get into the killings.
So the first person who dies is RJ.
Because RJ cries in the shower, which honestly, the amount of male nudity that it focuses on, I would say it focuses more on male nudity than it does female nudity in this movie. Kind of gives you a good, because there's RJ crying in the shower completely naked, Wayne in the barn in his underwear, and then Kid Cudi's dick. It's not even Jackson's dick, it's Kid Cudi's dick. 14-inch long, do pull-ups on that thing. But that's later. But anyway, yeah, RJ, first one to die. How does he die?
So he decides that he is mad at Church Mouse for having sex with Jackson.
I mean, I wouldn't. I would be honored.
And because of that, he is like, I'm going to leave. So he gets the keys to the van and he's like, I'd like to see them make this movie without me.
Let's see how far they get without me.
And then he starts the van and starts to leave, and Pearl is
Can we pause real quick and talk about this song choice?
I mean, it's in my notes to talk about the song choice.
Go ahead.
But
And then Pearl.
yeah, he starts to leave and sees Pearl standing in the road, so he stops the vehicle, and the music that's playing is really good. Is this when Don't Fear the Reaper is playing, or does it start a little bit later? Because I thought it started after she started stabbing him.
No, it starts as soon as he gets in the car.
So Don't Fear the Reaper's playing, and it's so good, especially once Pearl starts stabbing him in the neck, because she walks over and she kisses him, and RJ's like, bro, listen, I'm not trying to bang. Like, you're old as shit. What the fuck?
And spoiler alert, if he would have had sex with her, the rest of this movie would never have happened.
Probably not. It might have.
Now we're going to do XX is what we're going to call it, and it's going to be what happens if RJ just fucks her. They finish the movie and we'll move on with their life.
But she tries to kiss RJ. RJ's like, bro, listen, you're like geriatric. I'm not trying to bang.
Let's go find your husband, you weird old bitch.
Yeah, so she stabs him in the neck. And when she starts stabbing him, I have like the most fun I have in this entire movie. This isn't the best scene by any means. Maybe not the best kill. I think it's the best kill.
I don't
Because
think it's the best kill.
I think with Don't Fear the Reaper playing in the background and her stabbing him and the blood shooting over the headlights to make it go from a headlight illuminated light style to almost like a red light filter over it. I think that this scene is awesome. Just one of the best. The blood is cool. Her like mounting RJ after she stabbed him because, you know, she's super horny. I think that's awesome. This whole scene to me is what the movie should have been.
No, I agree. I thought stylistically it was beautiful. And that really sets up this, oh, we're in another part of the movie. All right, time for Act 2. Here we go.
Yeah, it's just a full 180.
Yeah, full 180. Like, here we go. We're not doing this anymore. And then after that happens, Lorraine recruits Wayne to go find RJ because she's like, well, what if I made him upset? I just need to find him. And Wayne's like, I really don't want to deal with this shit. I just want to go to bed. But he does it anyway. And his death is very reminiscent of Friday the 13th Part 3. Because much like in Friday the 13th Part 3, where the biker dies in the barn due to various things, if you want to know how it dies, there is a... Well, no, I know, but I'm saying this would be the point where I plug the podcast and go listen to the Friday the 13th Part 3 episode, because we actually did it, if you want to know. But they die in a similar fashion because Wayne steps on the nail,
which was a super good suspenseful scene,
as you said, and then sees movement and thinks that it's RJ or Church Mouse and starts hobbling over to these 3 holes that are in the barn door, or the barn wall, not the door. And then he's looking through them, and one by one until he gets to the last one, and then all of a sudden pitchfork through all 3 holes. His eyes literally did pop out of his skull.
Which is what you were talking about earlier with your foreshadowing statement.
I thought that was great.
No, it was awesome.
And then you want to talk about the next one?
The next part I'm going to talk about is Lorraine.
Yeah, Lorraine. Hold on, how does he say it? Lorraine ain't like that. Yeah, people have that hick accent. Lorraine ain't like that. Ain't like them other girls. Yeah, that's it.
So Lorraine runs into the house.
No. Lorraine.
So
Church
Jenna
House.
Ortega meets Howard, and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for my wife." And she goes into the house with him, and he's like, "Hey, there's another flashlight in the basement. Could you go grab it?" So she goes into the basement to get a flashlight and gets locked down there by Howard's character because obviously he had intended to get her locked down there so that she wouldn't have to die too.
That was her fault.
Or I'm assuming that the reason they were trying to lock her down there was so that she didn't have to die too.
The reason they locked her down there was because he was going to use her, much like how they wanted to use Maxine.
Yeah, because Pearl was like, well, we don't need her now, or we don't need her anymore.
No, Pearl just wanted like a sex slave, pretty much. And that's what they were going to do with Church Mouse.
Oh,
did you not get that?
I didn't. I was confused as to what they were going to quote unquote use her for, although that does make sense.
Yeah, because his heart doesn't. That's what I got out of it. Is his heart doesn't work, so they're just going to use them as like fucking.
So, in
Like-
my mind, and I could be wrong about this, wouldn't it be more like, or wouldn't it make more sense if they were trying to keep someone for like fuck stick purposes, especially for Pearl, that they keep like Jackson or Wayne alive instead of offing them and keeping the ladies alive? Because obviously girls can be into girls, and Maxine or Pearl's character has shown that she has tendencies like that when she sneaks into bed with Maxine later. However, I feel like if you want them specifically for consensual fucking, guys would probably be better for that, especially if you're a lady.
So I agree, but I think the reason that she doesn't like Wayne is because he's a pretentious asshole.
I mean, that's fair.
And the reason she doesn't like Jackson is because it's 1979 and she comes from a time of racism. So he's black.
I mean, that's fair.
Like
all of
that's how I justify it, and the reason I justify her saying, and the whole thing is like why it would be a sex slave is because the way that they have RJ like tied up, they could be into necrophilia, you don't know, but the way that she fixates on Maxine and just really likes her skin makes me go, oh, that's the one that she wants. It's the pretty one that reminds her of her youth that she's like focused in on, so she's gonna fuck that one.
like I said, I totally don't disagree with you. I just hadn't caught that, so I'm glad that you were able to, because I was unsure what they were going to be used for.
No, that's not what they're used for. Then I don't know unless they want to
Bathe in their blood for like youth or something.
I mean, they could cut off their skin, do a little spooky dance with them or something.
Yeah.
Wear your face like a mask.
So Lorraine gets locked in the basement, and she sees RJ tied up down there. You mentioned that, but
yeah, and she does her scream queen scream.
Yeah, a really really notable one.
And her face is ugly, so you can see that she really got that visceral, genuine terror. I don't know. I like Jenna Ortega. I think she's a good actress and has potential. Not on the same as Mia Goth though. But I think that Jenna Ortega with a little bit more practice will get up there.
Yeah, just give her some time.
Yeah, she needs to blossom a little bit.
The next scene that I have written down is basically the end.
Okay, so I want to talk about did you catch when Jenna Ortega is going through and starts hacking away at it that she reaches her hand through and then her fingers get cut off? Did you catch what that was a reference to?
Like, it's familiar. I've seen stuff like.
Here's Johnny.
Was that supposed to be a Shining reference?
I believe so, because it's almost the exact same panel that's cut out, the one on the left side, and she reaches through to unlock the door, much like how Jack Nicholson does, and much like how Jack Nicholson gets slashed on the hand, she gets her fingers chopped off when she reaches for the lock.
That's fair.
So I really think that.
I can for sure see it.
Oh, but then wrapping up deaths, Betty Lou ends up pissing off Pearl because she says that, my grandmother gets confused. And I think that this is the best death because she just, pushes her in the water and then goes, bitch. And then the alligator rips her apart.
Yeah.
That was good. She's like, I don't need a nurse.
I knew you'd want to talk about that one, so that's why I didn't. Just like I assumed you also want to talk about Jackson's.
Yeah, I'll talk about Jackson's wiener first. Let's just talk about this. You don't actually see it, but you get to see the silhouette of Jackson standing. Like he pulls open the door when Howard's looking around, and he goes, "My wife's missing." And
my
wife is missing, and she gets confused. And he goes, "That's a lot of firepower looking for a little woman, don't you think?" Well, we got gators. Okay, that makes sense. Once a Marine, always a Marine. How did you feel about that since you're in the Army?
I mean,
don't you guys get along or something?
I mean, I don't know. It's a mindset that a lot of people have.
Yeah, don't the Army and the Marines get along with each other, and then the Navy and the Air Force get along with each other?
I mean, I would argue that the Navy and Marines probably get along with each other better than the Army and the Marines, just because the Navy is technically above the Marines.
Not from what I've heard, because they do boot camp together. I know that, they do the same, they do the same basic training, obviously. But every story I've heard from a Marine, and the best one was someone was like, "How do you say the Navy thing?" And he goes, "Oh, it's like saying oorah but with a dick in your mouth."
I guess if it depends on how you're looking at it, because information technology, nuclear power and stuff like that, Air Force and Navy are more on the same terms. Job-wise, I guess Army and Marines are more similar on a grand scale, but there's so much stuff intertwined between them that it doesn't really matter.
Oh, I was trying to put the point across. It was a stupid argument.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're all there doing the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Good job. Anyway, but he's like, once a Marine, always a Marine. And he goes out and finds him. And then, you see the silhouette of this 14-foot anaconda. It's just dangling there, which also was not actually his penis. It was a prosthetic. I looked it up. And you're probably wondering, why are you fixating on that one? Because it was funny.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny.
It was very funny for comedic effect. But him and Howard are looking for her, and then he finds a car, a yellow Volkswagen, that basically signifies they've done this before. These are not the first people. that they've lured here, and they're keeping them as sex slaves. And then he, gives them a shotgun blast and a kick in the ass, which shoots him off into the mouth of an alligator that
Yep.
consumes him. Which I thought was funny how they're a couple and they both died the same way.
Yeah, alligatored.
Yeah, they got gatored. But then we can talk about the end where
So the ending scene, but the only part about it that I really wanted to talk about, other than Maxine and the televangelist's dialogue lining up, which I think is super important, especially once it reveals that she's the televangelist's daughter.
yeah, that's super important.
Like, I think that their scenes matching up is really interesting, or their dialogue matching up is really interesting because it shows that we don't know what her character was before the movie started, but we can assume that she was more like Lorraine. And as the movies progressed, or as the time before the movie progressed, she's basically the polar opposite of what she used to be.
Yeah, speaking of Lorraine, I do want to interject. Her death was my favorite death because it was funny. But yeah, I think that Lorraine is, and if you're wondering about her death, she runs outside and gets fucking, shotgun blast to the face. It's pretty funny actually because it comes out of nowhere and you think she's going to survive. But yeah, I think that Lorraine is a representation of, and I think this is why Maxine doesn't like her, is because she reminds her of what she used to be.
Agreed.
And then when she says, I want to be in the movie, Maxine smiles. And it's because, oh, well, I've converted her. Now she's seeing the way. So that, or at least that's what I thought.
No, I mean that's also my thinking as well.
Especially when it's revealed that the televangelist is Maxine's dad.
But I really liked when, after they dragged Lorraine's character back inside, Mia Goth is talking to him and she has the pistol. And she's like, yeah, no, listen, I'm leaving. You guys are crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah, fuck you, we're done.
And then the old lady, when she shoots the shotgun and flies out the fucking, when Pearl shoots the shotgun and flies out the door.
So did you notice in that scene what she shot?
It looked like she shot a mirror or something. I don't know. All I know is that Maxine's character ducks right before the bullet goes off.
Well, so I want to talk about this because she does shoot the mirror.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
And I think that that is a very symbolic thing because before in the movie with their first meeting, she, has her look in the mirror at herself and then starts touching her or whatever. So the mirror represents the connection between the two of them as she sees herself as Maxine and sees what the future holds for Maxine because it's the future for her and she, envies her. And when she shoots the mirror, it is that separation between the two where they are no longer one and they've gone completely different ways, where she's not trying to keep her anymore, she's trying to kill her. And she even says, I know who you really are, and isn't even referencing the fact that she's the preacher's daughter, that she's just in the eyes of Pearl, she's just a whore, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I think it's symbolic. I may be looking into it a little too much, but I feel like it's just symbolic of the, tie between them being shattered, and it's boom.
Do you think that's why she was ejected from the house as well? To show just a further separation, you two are not the same anymore?
Yes, to really demonstrate that there might have been something before, but now we're done. We're completely separated, and that's why when she pops over her head, it makes sense. Overall recommendations, great.
I mean, I wouldn't call it great. I think that this is a good movie. I think that you should watch it. I think if you're a fan of slashers, you should add this to the list.
Definitely.
I think that in 10 years, this trilogy, depending on how Pearl and Maxine work out, will be remembered fondly.
Which we will do Pearl, don't worry.
And we will also do Maxine.
Yeah, we'll do them. But with that being said, what you got for Bailey's Babbles today?
So for Bailey's Babbles today, we actually have a little game that I wrote up. And it's called, so I have Porn or Not. But it's supposed to be porn parodies, is what it's supposed to be. Oh,
okay.
I shouldn't hold it like that.
No, you shouldn't. I'll see the answers.
Yeah. So basically, the way this game is going to work is I'm going to read you the title of a movie, and then I'm going to read you 4 options for what is the porn parody of that movie. It's not
Okay.
all movies. Some of them are TV shows.
That's fair. And
So there are 6 questions. The stipulation is you have to get at least 2 right to pass.
what happens if I don't?
Then before the end of the week, we're going to record you doing the one chip challenge and putting it on Instagram or TikTok as a reel.
Okay.
And if you do win, then at some point this week, we will record me doing the one chip challenge and putting it on Instagram or TikTok.
Shit, stakes are high. All right, roll the porno music.
So the first title is It's a Wonderful Life. And which movie, A, B, C, or D, is the porn parody? It's a Wonderful Wife. Tits a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Pie, XXX. Tits on a Wonderful Wife. So, once again, that's A, It's a Wonderful Wife. B, Tits a Wonderful Life. C, It's a Wonderful Pie, XXX. Or D, Tits on a Wonderful Wife.
I'm gonna go C.
It's a Wonderful Pie, XXX?
Yeah.
Nope. The correct answer is Tits a Wonderful Life.
Tits a Wonderful Life. Okay.
All right. The next one is A Tale of Two Cities. And the possible answers are A Tale of Two Lonely Women. B, A Tale of Two Clitties. C, A Tale of Two Pussies. Or D, A Tale of Two Titties.
I'm gonna go D.
That is correct.
Yes. All right, I only gotta get one more. I'm sweating so much.
So the next one is Married with Children. The first choice is A, Not Married with Children, XXX. B, Married with Benefits. C, Married Without Children. Or D, Married Without Children, XXX.
One more time.
A, Not Married with Children, XXX. B, Married with Benefits. C, Married Without Children. D, Married Without Children, XXX.
I'm gonna go C.
Incorrect.
Is it D?
No, it's A, Not Married with Children, XXX.
Damn. Okay.
All right. So you're 1 for 3. The next one is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Your choice A is Buffy the Vampire Banger. B, Buffy the Blood Bumper. C, Buffy the Vampire Slayer
That's it.
XXX.
Oh no! Hold on. No, sorry. What's the last one?
Or D, Buffy the Vampire Layer.
That's it.
It's D.
It's D.
You're correct.
It's D. I was like, I know that one, and then you said that, but because I knew that the end of it was, like the. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I was hoping Blood Bumper was the one you were going to pick.
No, I knew that one. I knew that one.
So your next one is Forrest Gump. So Forrest Hump, Foreskin Gump, Foreskin Hump, Forrest Bump.
I feel like it's the first one.
The first or second one would be correct or acceptable answers because on the site, Foreskin Gump was the answer, or it was the porno title. But when I did a search of the other ones before I added them onto the list, because the other ones are all ones I made up, I actually did find a Forrest Hump as well. So, yeah. So the actual one on the thing would technically be B, Foreskin Gump.
So did I get that
but
right?
I found a Forrest Hump. Yeah, so you're 3 for 3 now. Or 3 for 5 now.
3 for 5, yeah.
You got one more.
I got one more.
So the next one is Pulp Fiction. So is it A, Pulp Fiction XXX, B, Hump Fiction, C, Pulp Fuction, or D, Pulp Friction?
If I get this wrong, because I've actually never looked this up, I feel like this would be the one that I should know. I'm going to go with D. What was D?
Pulp Friction?
I want to say that makes the most sense and is funnier than all the others.
Is it your final answer?
I'm going to say it's my final answer.
Okay, you're right.
Oh, thank God. That was the one I was really nervous about.
You're 4 for 6. And then 2 honorable mentions are Spider Babe and Lord of the G-Strings. I don't know if you've seen either of them.
I really thought you were going to go with The Womb Raider,
I didn't see that one.
or The Big Bang Theory.
I also didn't see a porno for that.
It's literally just The Big Bang Theory. Triple X.
Well,
That's it.
so okay, so all of the ones that were just the title Triple X, I tried not to go with
Yeah.
because I wanted it to be like fun. That's also why all of the other titles are titles I made up.
That's
like
fair.
Buffy the Blood Bumper. I just thought that would be funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
Or A Tale of Two Clitties.
Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah, I thought that they were funny. Or Married Without Children. I thought that was funny because Not Married with Children sounds like that doesn't sound like it should be a porn.
No, it doesn't.
It sounds like something if I had a porn and children was in the title of it, I wouldn't watch it.
No.
I would just be like, "Oh, nope, that's a no from me."
Yeah, that was that. No, that one threw me for a loop because I was like, none of these sound
Like they should be
like
pornos.
they should be pornos.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
But that was the game. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
I was terrified with that.
Yeah. So I guess at some point this week, I'm gonna do the one chip challenge and have someone record it. and
Oh, I'll record it. We'll do it together.
You want to come over to the house after this and do it?
Ooh, I don't know about that. I gotta cook.
Oh, I thought you were going to. Never mind. It's
I got a meal
irrelevant.
prep for the week.
Is there anything else you have today?
Yeah, I want to talk about the news.
Okay.
So the main headline this week that I found with cinema or TV shows is the Netflix show Dahmer is getting a lot of backlash. There have been tons of people, and I think the most famous tweet came from an account where they compared the side-by-side pictures of the court scene in the show and the actual court scene in real life. And it looked the same, but the argument behind it was, is it acceptable? Like, is true crime acceptable? Is it fine for them doing what they did? Because for the families having to relive this event and watching an actor portray your loved one that died is fucked up, I guess. But at the same time, they're not technically, they don't technically have to tell the family about it because it's all quote unquote public record.
Right.
So they don't have to alert them that they're doing it. So apparently the 17 Dahmer victims' families knew about it when it was released for the whole world, when they were teasing it or whatever. And a lot of the thing, I mean, obviously you don't want to glorify serial killers. I mean, we'll do an episode over natural born killers at some point. Or not. You looking at me like you don't want to. That's fine.
No, I'm down. I was just doing that because I was trying to get a reaction.
Well, yeah, no, you have these glorifying serial killers, which you shouldn't do. And, Jeffrey Dahmer was a horrible human being. I get that. But at the same time, when Evan Peters is who's playing Jeffrey Dahmer, I feel like a lot more people are going to be hyped on it because of who was playing it, not necessarily because of Dahmer. Like, we don't glorify Jeffrey Dahmer, but, Evan, like, his acting, though. Like, the acting, great.
So you're saying that because Evan Peters is generally considered to be A, attractive, and B, a good actor, that you're afraid that because of that, or not necessarily you're afraid, there is an argument to be made that people might be glorifying Jeffrey Dahmer because Evan Peters, who is, like I said, known to be attractive and a good actor, is portraying him?
Yes, that was one of the things that was mentioned.
So are you saying that anytime that there's a serial killer movie or a true crime, like anything, that they should ensure that ugly people are the ones doing it so that no one will accidentally get attracted to them?
No, because Ted Bundy was a very attractive person. So that's why when, Zac Efron was playing him, that was a good choice.
Yeah. No, I think Evan Peters is a good choice.
No, I think it's a great choice. I think he nailed it.
No, I mean, I think the whole argument that, because I've heard that argument, like me saying that wasn't my actual thoughts. That's an argument that I've heard, that because he's attractive and a good actor, he shouldn't be playing a serial killer because it will make people glorify him, I guess is the best word.
But they're already glorifying him. Like, there are tons of people who glorified Jeffrey Dahmer himself and not, Evan Peters.
But what I'm saying is that the argument that, that you shouldn't be doing it for those reasons is silly.
No, it's dumb. It's extremely stupid.
I know. I'm agreeing with you, sir.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just reiterating my point.
But no, how far have you made it into it? if you've
Um,
decided to watch it.
I did decide to watch it. I think I'm on episode 3 right now.
I finished episode 5, I believe, like 2 days ago, yesterday. But I'm watching it with my roommates currently, so like I can't just binge it.
Yeah, with that being said, I think the other, the only notable movie that's really coming out that I think that we didn't talk about last time was Pearl.
Yeah.
Pearl would be a really good one coming out. And obviously, Smile. I know people have said they were really hyped on that one with you. I think Smile releases next weekend.
I think so.
So with that being said, we might just do Smile
Yeah.
as our new release, and then go into it, and then watch Pearl. Maybe it'll be on DVD by then.
Pearl?
Yeah,
I doubt it.
probably. That'll be fine. Still in theaters.
I mean, I think that if we don't get Pearl like this week or next week, we probably aren't getting Pearl until it comes out. Which isn't necessarily a problem. I don't know. I liked Pearl, or I liked X a lot, so I feel like I'll like Pearl.
I feel like I'm gonna like Pearl more than Smile.
I know I will like Pearl more than Smile, and I think that Pearl might actually make me like X more.
So all right, next week we'll do Pearl,
Or Smile.
or no, we're doing Pearl. We'll do Smile the week after.
Maybe.
But with that being said, this has been Two Idiots One Podcast. I have been the illustrious Bailey.
He's Taylor and I'm Bailey.
No, I'm Bailey now.
I
You're
don't want you.
Taylor.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Taylor. And thank you so much to listening. Thank you again to everybody that has contributed to this podcast. We are constantly trying to better ourselves and grow, so that way we can be a multi-million-dollar media brand that slowly takes over the world.
I'm just happy that you guys are listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Oh, you don't want to reveal the curtain on that one? You'll do everything else but that one. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh. Sure you don't. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. This has been Two Idiots One Podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.